Today the prices are quite different. So if you wanted to pick up a nice one today, you know, even if you didn't want to pick up a nice one, you just wanted to pick up a Dino, you would probably pay about £250,000. Well, welcome to another episode from Supercar Tribe. I'm Andy Rasool. Today we are at a slightly different place to where we've been before. I mean, we've always been in these nice, lovely, glossy showrooms with all these beautiful cars in the best of their conditions. But today I thought, let's shake it up a little bit and let's bring you over to Supercar Italia. Supercar Italia are based in Biggin Hill in Kent, and they are a supercar service centre and workshop. So let's check it out. So here we have something that's obviously quite modern. It's Lamborghini Gallardo Superleggera. This one has come in for some alternator work, but if you look at the car, it's absolutely beautiful. So much carbon fibre is on this car. And then when you have a look at the inside, this car is just stunning. You know, with the carbon fibre door cards, the door panels, and the carbon fibre tunnel in the middle, and lots of Alcantara. Absolutely beautiful car, and really in great condition. And here, right next to it, I thought that this originally might have been a wrap, but it seems that it's actually the original condition, because when you look under the engine bay, because there's no engine, you can actually see the original body colour itself. So this baby blue Lamborghini Gallardo Spider has had its engine completely taken out, and the engine itself is being completely rebuilt. It's already been stripped. This 550 Maranello is actually it's owned by quite a famous gentleman. He has bought the car in here to have the suspension completely rebuilt as well, and these are all the bits that have come out, which are all going to be sent off to be completely refurbished back to their original condition. So a few years ago I passed down the chance to buy a BB, and I really regret it because they have gone up. The car that I was offered was 25k. You'd be lucky to get one for 250k now. So this particular car has come in from Canada. It's a left-hand drive car. It arrived a little while ago, and before it left Canada it was fully serviced, and it was then put onto a trailer. When it got here, the engine was making some very strange sounds. It'll be interesting if anybody from Canada who might recognize this car can tell us a little bit more about the car. That'll be really quite interesting. Here we've got a lovely Testarossa, but you'll notice that there is something missing from the car, and that is the engine. Engine has been taken out, and what's interesting is normally when these engines are taken out, they're taken out from the bottom. So the entire subframe comes out, which includes the back wheels, and that basically means that the car is then stuck on a ramp and can't be used. These guys know how to take it out from the top, which is quite unusual way of doing it. But what it means then is they can then free the ramp up, roll the car around, and you know, they're not stuck with a car on the ramp. But of course, we are only here to see one car, and that car today is the Ferrari Dino 246 GTS. Let's check it out. So this here is our studio car today, and I've got to say it's absolutely beautiful. It's you know, I wouldn't say it's in complete concours condition, but it's in very good condition. So this particular car came in for initially for a gearbox problem. When the gearbox on these cars are cold, they take a little bit of warming up before you can actually start to use first gear, and I think they used first a little bit too early, so it damaged the gearbox. So essentially that came in initially for that, but at the same time it's had a lot of engine work done as well, you know, major service and, you know, all various other bits that need doing to it. So this particular car came with a V6 engine, whereas all the other Ferraris at the time came with V8 engines, and or V12. And you know, this was a V6 engine, so it was really seen as a sort of an entry-level baby model car, and for quite a while people did not actually even consider this to be a real Ferrari. It was actually even badged without the Ferrari badges on it in the earlier cars, and it would be badged with just the Dino badging itself, and that was kind of how it came out of the factory. Of course, designed by Pininfarina, and this is considered one of the most beautiful designs that's out of Maranello. Real simplicity on the interior itself, everything sort of focused around the driver. Again, that manual gearbox, which we so miss nowadays. Really wish we had more of that. And this particular interior itself, finished in cream with beige leather, in really good condition. I mean, the overall car, as I mentioned before, is in really good condition. I mean, there's certainly no rust or anything like that on the vehicle, and the paintwork is they've given it a clean because they knew we were coming down today, and the paintwork is in really, it's got a real nice deep shine to it. So credit to the owner who's looked after it. The chrome is again in such good condition, as are the alloys, and just looks like a lot of fun to drive. And this is our studio car for today. Right, here we are inside the 246 Dino GTS, and the first thing you notice when you get in here is, well, there's a couple of things that you notice. Is that, first of all, car design has moved on so much. Everything just feels a little bit more delicate in here, and whereas in new cars now it's so much more robust. The cars nowadays are really built to be used on a much more regular basis. Even something like the F40, I mean, the F40 felt a lot more robust. This was from an era where things were just done differently. The value of these cars actually dropped quite a lot. So, they actually dropped down to probably about 15 years ago, perhaps 20 years ago. You could pick these up for somewhere between £5,000 and £10,000. They were really cheap. And the owner who purchased this car, he's owned this for a number of years, so he's probably picked it up as a really good price. Today the prices are quite different. So if you wanted to pick up a nice one today, even if you didn't want to pick up a nice one, you just wanted to pick up a Dino, you would probably pay about £250,000. And if it was a really nice one, maybe about £350,000. And if it was a collector's version, you're probably talking about north of £400,000. It seems like only a couple of weeks ago where we were talking about a new Ferrari coming out. So perhaps a little bit soon for another one to come out, but that is the case. I mean, another new Ferrari has been released. So this week we saw the release of what is known as the P80/C, or P80C as it's probably going to be known, and this is a one-off car that has been produced for a collector in Hong Kong. Now, I kid you not, apparently his name is TK Mac, not named after the store, and probably has nothing to do with the store either, but that is his name, it seems. So Mr. TK Mac from Hong Kong is a collector, and I think he may also be associated or perhaps own the Ferrari dealership over there as well. So he's obviously a very good customer of Ferraris, and they don't just produce one-off cars for anybody. They want to produce it for people who are very closely associated to the brand, either sort of through the dealership network or in terms of owning a number of cars. So Ferrari themselves has said is that they would only produce cars for someone who's more than just a client, but they embody the marquee itself. Seems that Mr. TK Mac is one of those people who embodies the marquee. This car is based on the 488 GT3 race car, so rather than just being based on the road car itself, it's actually based on the race car. And it has the race car has a 3.9 litre V8 engine, so this probably has the same engine or something similar to that. The road car produces 661 brake horsepower, and this no doubt has more, so be really interesting to sort of get the full specification on that. And this car has actually been in development since 2015. So it's interesting that, you know, it's taken 4 years to actually turn this from what was originally a dream of Mr. Mac and has now become reality. So working with Ferrari over those years to develop what he wanted in terms of the ultimate track car, because this is not a road car, it's only a track car. It can only be used on the track. Price wise, I mean, who knows? It wasn't disclosed and it probably never will be disclosed, but we're talking about multiples of millions. How many millions, nobody really knows. Not to be outdone, Ferrari having just released a new car, McLaren have done the same, but there's a slight difference with this one, because if you remember, a few months ago on our website we wrote an article about a Bugatti Chiron made out of Lego. Well, it seems that the team at Lego and the team with McLaren have done the same again. They have launched a Lego version of the McLaren Senna. Now, before you turn away, this isn't a £12.99 version of a Lego model. No, this is based on the McLaren Senna, which is valued at around about 750k, and Lego themselves had 30 model makers who came together. There is nearly 500,000 pieces that have gone into this Lego model itself. 20,000 of those pieces alone had to be specifically made for the Senna itself. And in total, this team of 30 model makers spent 2,700 hours on the car. The correct Pirelli tyres also have been fitted to this model. But what's really interesting is that despite it not having an engine inside, it's actually heavier than the real thing. The real thing weighs 1,198 kg. This weighs 1,700 kg. So significantly more than the original Senna itself. But it looks fantastic. I mean, you've got to look at it. It just looks great. So last Sunday, HRO, which is a dealer in London, they hosted what is known as Supercar Sunday. They do this on a regular basis, and it just so happened that it was last weekend. People who come there, they expect to see the best supercars. So not just from HRO, but a lot of the owners, they will come as well, customers of HRO, and they will bring their supercars along. And yeah, so you know, usually attracts huge crowds of car enthusiasts. On this particular occasion, there was a particular Lamborghini Huracan which came to the show. Unfortunately, it didn't leave in the same condition, because as it was leaving, it accelerated down the road and ended up hitting a tree and a wall and writing off the car completely. Amazingly, nobody was hurt, including the driver, although I imagine his ego was a little bit bruised as a result of the crash, considering that it was also caught by a number of Instagrammers and YouTubers, you know, for their channel. But yeah, it's probably not the best way to leave the event. He's written off his car, but thankfully nobody was hurt. I think I've mentioned it before in one of the previous videos, where it's very easy to actually spin the tyres on these supercars. I've done it myself and I've hit a wall. Luckily, again, nobody was injured. Mine was actually at really slow speed, which is just, it was almost like watching a car crash in slow motion, because there's literally nothing you can do about it. Once, you know, cold tyres hit tarmac and, you know, you accelerate and there's no traction, there's nothing you can do until the car itself stops. Right, the Pikes Peak Challenge, based in Colorado Springs in the USA. Have you heard of it? No? I hadn't either, to be honest with you, so it's no surprise. But when I looked into it, I was actually hugely impressed actually with what it was all about. And it seems that a year or so ago, Bentley won the Pikes Peak Challenge with their Bentley Bentayga, which entered into the SUV category itself. Now, if you're not familiar with the events, it's a uphill sprint of 12.42 miles, and what makes it especially challenging is the fact that it has 156 corners that you have to navigate around. So it's not the easiest of races to win, but Bentley managed it with the SUV that they have, the Bentayga. So they're going back this year now, and they've announced that they're going to be racing again in a specially prepared Continental GT. The road car puts out 626 brake horsepower with an astonishing 900 newton meters of torque, and I don't think that they're going to be changing the power delivery or anything like that in any way. I think they're just going to be adjusting suspensions and probably some body and things like that. The driver that Bentley have chosen is a chap called Rhys Millen, who is also known as the King of the Mountain. So he is an expert on this particular track, which will probably go a long way to Bentley's success in the race itself. The date for the race is the 30th of June, so we will no doubt do another article giving you an update as to whether they were successful or not in winning the Pikes Peak Challenge. And the final bit of news that we have for you is taken from our Friday DROOL article. This particular car that we chose was the Bentley ARNAGE Final Series, and I will not hide the fact that I think that this is one of the greatest Bentleys ever made, possibly the greatest Bentley ever made. I mean, it's the very last of the old school Bentleys. I mean, after the ARNAGE, production changed. It was the new model was the Mulsanne, which is a great car, not taking anything away from it. But the original ARNAGE and the original Bentleys, they felt that they were crafted from metal and wood. Some of that, a little bit, has been lost in modern manufacturing techniques and the way that the cars are built, designed, and all of that. But the ARNAGE Final Series was the final version of the ARNAGE that came out, and the car that we found was actually the final ARNAGE ever built. So it was actually the last ever what they called the proper Bentleys ever made, and I think it's the best four-door saloon car ever made, and I also think it's quite possibly the best Bentley ever made. And I say that as having owned an ARNAGE T as well, because they are just fantastic. I mean, I've owned Ferraris, I've owned Porsches, and I've owned Bentley ARNAGE T, and of all the cars, the one that I miss the most is the Bentley ARNAGE T. One of only 150 made, and this is number 150. And to prove it, they put a plaque inside the car in the boots with signatures of a bunch of people from the Bentley factory who were happy to sign off on the car. So that's a nice little bit there. Engine wise, 500 brake horsepower engine and a monumental 738 pound-feet of torque. The specification of this particular car is extremely high, higher than a standard ARNAGE T, higher than a standard Final Series as well. So there's a special wood that's been used, which just looks beautiful. It really looks nice with the colour of the leather as well. It has the Flying B badge on the bonnets, 20-inch alloys, which I think just look superb. They really look beautiful on this car. And other extras include 1000-watt name, sound audio system, and a bunch of other things as well. Now this particular car, I mean, the value of these cars obviously depreciated over time. This car's only done 9,000 miles, and being the final series, final ARNAGE, and the last of the old school Bentleys, this car's been priced at £120,000. Now, in comparison, so this is I think a 2010 car. In comparison, there is a 2008 ARNAGE T, not the Final Series, but ARNAGE T, with 30,000 miles for sale at the moment for £50,000. So my initial thought was, wow, that's a huge markup in comparison. And I thought to myself, you know what? It is, but it's probably worth it because it ticks so many boxes. I mean, it's a beautiful specification. I've not seen a specification that's as good as this one. It's the last of the proper Bentleys. It's the last of the Final Series. It's quite possibly the most beautiful four-door saloon car ever made. And I'm not taking anything away from Rolls-Royce, because Rolls-Royce do make some great cars, but I do think that this is more beautiful when it comes down to it. And I thought 120k for quite a unique car, and there is no other comparison. It's probably about right. It's probably about right. You know, if somebody wanted one of these for their you know, for their collection, if I had the money, would I pay for it? I probably would. And you know, I'm sure that there's going to be somebody out there who's also going to pay for it. So, you know, it's a great car, beautiful, beautiful car. All of the articles I've covered today have been released on our website in the last week, and links are all going to be provided in the description below. Just to give you an idea of our content calendar, so on Saturday this particular video will come out, which is Supercar News of the Week. On Monday we will release our first DROOL article, which is a look at cars available from the current range. On Wednesday we will release part 2 to this video, which is the review of the studio car itself. On Thursday we have our podcast, which comes out, and that's available on iTunes, Google Play, or on our website. On Friday we have our DROOL article, which is looking at something from the back catalogue, and as mentioned previously, we release at least 2 articles a day, so it's well worth coming to our website and having a look and seeing what all the articles are, because we don't talk about them all on here. We don't have the time for that. Come over to our website and check it out, SupercarTribe.com. Well, it's been great showing you around Supercar Italia here in Kent. Next week we're in a different place, looking at a different car, but again with the latest stories. Do subscribe and join the tribe.